Take out your notebooks, take out your basics charts as we take a look at Norway today. And yes, it's written up there in Norwegian. And I really speak no Norwegian. The only Norwegian I know is Jeg snakker ikke norsk, which means I don't speak Norwegian. Now, Norway 12-4. Is there anybody in here that knows how to say this properly? Norge? Norge? Oh, Norge. Okay. That's what I figured. Espen would know how to say that. Oh, yeah. His dad's from there, so I figured he'd know how to pronounce it a lot better than I would. So, Norway. Here we go. First thing that we deal with is, of course, basics chart. So, when we look at Norway, land area, comparing it to Minnesota, of course, is it going to be one greater than or two, or sorry, one less than or two greater than Minnesota? Norway, less than Minnesota, greater than Minnesota. Less than Minnesota, greater than Minnesota. Less than Minnesota, greater than Minnesota. Ooh, lots of ones, very few twos, which means that twos, you got it right. It is greater than. It is greater than Minnesota. Partially because it is a skinny country, but it stretches so far north that even though much of it is skinny, it is very long. Sort of like Chile, but Norway has that big bulge at the bottom. Population, less than 1, greater than 2, comparing to Minnesota with Norway. Less than Minnesota, greater than Minnesota. Less than, greater than, less than, greater than, less than, greater than, less than, greater than. Ladies and gentlemen, the population of Norway is 4.7 million. Less than Minnesota. Less than Minnesota. Land area, greater than Minnesota. Population, less than Minnesota. Who can make a prediction about population density? Who can make a prediction about population density? Nate. It's going to be smaller. Why? Yeah, because the population of Norway is smaller than Minnesota, but Norway has more more land area, their population density is going to be less. They're going to be less crowded. 15.3 people per square kilometer. Good going, Nate. Arable land, and I know you haven't done the background reading on this, but arable land, Norway is full of mountains. It's mostly all mountains. Is it going to have a lot of arable land or a little? Raise your hand if you have an idea. A lot of arable land or a little? Laura? Little. Let's see. 2.7. 2.7% of its land is used for crops each year. Okay. Who can tell me the language they speak in Norway? And please, please, please don't say French. What language do they speak in Norway? What language do they speak in Norway? Let's go with boom. Norwegian, yes. They speak Norwegian in Norway. Life expectancy? What was that, Colin? You want to live? You want the men to live longer in this one? They do by a year compared to the United States. Men live to 77, women to 83. Still, the ladies outlive the men. And GDP per capita, ladies and gentlemen, 59,300. Well, that's an idea of how rich the country is. They have it's higher than the U.S., as somebody just pointed out. Good. Okay, the physical landscape. The landscape of Norway. Physical geography. Well, already told you it is made up of a lot of what? I already said it on the last slide when you look at arable land. What makes up much of Norway? Yes. Mountains. It's mountainous. Lots and lots and lots of mountains. Lots of mountains. Now, there's something special about where Norway is located. Norway is very, very far north. 1/3 of the country is actually north of a special line, a special latitude. Can anybody tell me what that latitude is? I don't need the number, but just the name that is given to it. Way up north. It's an area where at sometimes the sun never goes down. That would be the Arctic Circle. Good. 1/3 of it. 1/3 of the entire country is up above the Arctic Circle. 1/3 of the country is above the Arctic Circle. So that third of the country, you would expect it to be very what? Somebody said warm? Arctic Circle means you're getting close to the North Pole, where Santa lives. And Santa doesn't go around his home in a Speedo. As far as I know, and I don't think I'd want to see that. The farther you get away from the equator, the colder it gets, not the warmer it gets, sir. You know. Well then, come on. So, with 1/3 of the land above the Arctic Circle, once you get above the Arctic Circle, there are times, if you look here, here's a map of Norway. Here's the Arctic Circle. And you notice 1/3 of it is actually up in this area here. We got Narvik and Nordkapp, which would be the North Cape. And notice down here how Norway sort of bulges out there. Now, what that means, oh, click here to restore writing. I don't want to restore the writing. Just go. Thank you. There are days when the sun never sets, which means that it's daylight all day long. When you get to the middle of the summer, you never have night. You never have light. The sun will go down and look like it's about ready to go sunset, and then it starts to come up again. There are times in the summer when the sun is shining all day long and all night long. So at midnight it looked like this outside. Yes, Victor. Well, it's up to you if you stay up all night. Well, I'm using it in terms of reference, in terms of what you know of as night. But see, there's a downside to that too. What do you think will happen in the winter? What do you think will happen in the winter? Yes. That's right. There are times in the winter when the sun never comes up. Hey, let's go to school when it's pitch black all day long. And as it is in Minnesota during the winter time, you guys get groggy because it's cloudy and the weather's not nice and you can't go outside and you get stir crazy. You can imagine what it's like when the sun doesn't even come up. Now, south of the Arctic Circle, when we get to the south and the southwestern part of the country, the climate is mild. It is far north, ladies and gentlemen, but it's still mild. It's not hot. Santa in no Speedo or little spring thing. Why is southern and southwestern Norway mild? What causes Norway, even though it is so far north, to be so mild? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hands. Let me add a little hint. There's something that brings warm waters and warmer winds that blow over those waters. It's the same reason why northern Germany, northern France, Ireland, and the UK are also mild. Why is that, Rachel? The North Atlantic Current. Yes. The North Atlantic Current keeps southern and southwestern Norway mild. Now, I'm not saying that it's hot, but it keeps it mild. It's a lot milder than it is here. Now, along the coast of Norway, if I back up to the picture here, notice the coastline of Norway there. Is it nice and flat and straight? No, it's all jagged and stuff. Anybody know what landforms those are? They're special for Norway. There aren't many places in the world that have these landforms. There's all this ruggedness here. It has a name, a special name for that landform. And they're all along the coast of Norway. Anybody know? Doug? No, they're not peninsulas. Scandinavia itself is a peninsula, a piece of land surrounded on three sides by water, just like Europe is a giant peninsula, piece of land surrounded on three sides by water. But this one's something special because they're very rugged. The sides are very steep and rugged. Espen? Fjords. 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 The coast is made up of fjords. Now, fjords are a steep-sided ocean inlet. So it's where the water comes in towards the land. The sides are very, very steep. So it'll look like something like this going into the land. Very narrow, very steep. The sides, if you looked at it from the side, if you're sitting in a fjord looking towards the land, what you would see is something that looks pretty much like this. It's very, very steep. That is a fjord. The inlet means that it's a piece of water jutting into the land. And what makes it a special inlet is the idea that it has very steep sides. Most of Norway is covered in fjords. Okay, let's look at economy. And the biggest part of Norway's economy is already on that screen. The biggest part of Norway's economy is already on that screen. Logan, oil and natural gas from the North Sea. These are oil wells out in the middle of the sea, drilling underneath the sea into the ground, extracting oil and natural gas. It is the same region that the United Kingdom gets its oil and natural gas. One other major part of their economy also can be found in this picture. Also can be found in this picture. Yes. Fishing, yes. Water, fish, sea. They eat a lot of fish in Norway. And in Sweden as well. Hence, lutefisk. Oh. Government. Norway is a parliamentary democracy. Norway is a parliamentary democracy, and what is it not? Remember all these countries we've had little symbols and things up on the beginning of the slide? What isn't Norway compared to some of the other countries that we've talked about? What isn't Norway? Jordan, it is not part of the EU, and it doesn't use the euro. Why not? Why do you think Norway chose not to join the EU or join in using the euro? Yes. Yeah, because of the amount of money that they make on North Sea oil and natural gas, their economy is so great, but they don't need the euro. They don't want to join something where they start sending out their money to other parts of Europe. They're like, we're making plenty of money, we want to keep it for ourselves. We're just fine the way we are. So that's why they haven't joined. So when we did that EU activity where one of the questions were, what you had to come up with advantages of using the euro and being in the EU, and one of the questions after that was, why would some countries not want to be a member? Here's a prime example. Their economies are good already. They don't need it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is Norway. Short and sweet.